I think it's the most important thing for the mental health of elite performers in any field, but we'll use athletes as the example, is to have multiple components of your identity. So it's not to say that you shouldn't go all in, because if you want to be an Olympian or an NFL or NBA, WNBA football player, whatever it is, you kind of have to go all in. And oftentimes you're going all in from age 9,
Right.
which is its own issue. But at the same time, it's so important to have other pursuits that you identify with. It can be as an owner of a dog and a lover of dogs. It can be as someone that's intellectual and likes reading book. It can be as a parent or a spouse, a husband, wife, partner. It can be as a religious identity. It doesn't matter what. But if your whole identity is just that sport, again, even if you have the best career and you're never injured, most athletes retire between 35 and 40. So then what? And older adults that are not athletes experience post-retirement depression and anxiety because of a loss of identity. But you have so much more wisdom when you're 70 to navigate that. Imagine being a young kid, like where it's all you have and your sport is all consuming. So there's a woman that I am so fortunate to be close friends with. Her name's Shalane Flanagan, and she's one of the better American U.S. women's distance runners. And she was an all-in runner, like 130-mile weeks where you're just too tired to do anything else when you're running that much. But as she hit her mid-30s, she had the self-awareness and the wisdom to realize that running wasn't going to be forever, not at that level. So she started to very intentionally think about what would be next and diversify her identity. So she always loved cooking. And she knew that she had this big platform as the most popular U.S. women's distance runner. So she got book deals to write cookbooks. She wanted to start a family. She got really serious about that. She started to identify as a mom. So she did these things, and she still experienced, she talks about this publicly, depression when she retired. I mean, how could you not when you're so fused with something? But she credits her multiple identities with helping soften that blow and make her transition a little bit easier.
Yeah. I think there was a study that came out that athletes, I think they looked specifically at NFL athletes that suddenly were retired. So from injury or from whatever other issue, had to suddenly retire. They had a 2 to 3 times increased risk of some sort of mental health issue after retirement. And the point of that was there's no preparation for retirement in that context, right? Whether it's injury or some other issue. And then they felt just kind of spat out the other end. And it's just like, okay, well, now what? Right?
And you see these examples all the time. And I think that's what, a couple of minutes ago, we said why sport is such a powerful place to look because it's so intense when it happens. Michael Phelps is another just super notable example. And I'm not justifying DUIs. I don't think it's ever acceptable. What I will say is, how could Michael Phelps not have experienced some kind of addiction, mental health issue when he retired? I mean, all that guy did was stare at a line in a pool for 8 hours a day and was the best in the world at it. And that's all he had to do. And now he's just like spit out of the system and he's supposed to be a human functioning adult in society.
Right.
Of course that there's challenges. And I have a lot of respect for Michael Phelps because he's been so vulnerable about sharing his struggles. And I think that as more athletes speak up, as more young doctors come into the field, we're starting to actually talk about these things and take them seriously and design systems to make these transitions easier for athletes.